Thanks, JR, and hello, everybody. As the NASCAR Sprint Cup drivers are about to get their first look at Las Vegas Motor Speedway for 2010. Off in the distance, snow-capped peaks. Here at the Speedway, 56 degrees, a light breeze, mostly, let's make that almost totally cloudy. And, of course, the threat of rain for tomorrow. But as Larry reminded me, in California, they said it was going to rain all day Saturday, and a whole lot of people stayed out, not me, a whole lot of people stayed out late Friday night and weren't planning on an early Saturday morning, and we got everything in. So let's say the weather's not a factor. Here we go, getting ready to race.
Well, even though we had that last week at California, I think the crews down there are still looking at the forecast, and I think what we'll see in this hour-and-a-half practice, almost a mirror of what we saw a week ago. For the first hour, especially our top 35 guys, I think they'll work on race setup and then shift into qualifying mode to just get those 1 or 2 runs in before qualifying.
Darrell, we spent the morning with Jamie McMurray talking to him, and he talked about just how bumpy these cars are, and we saw it in the nationwide practice, getting off into turn 1.
You know what I really like, though, is just think about 2 weeks ago we were on a 2.5-mile super speedway with a restrictor plate. Last weekend we're on a 2-mile pretty flat super speedway. Today we're on a 1.5-mile progressive bank speedway. So it just shows it how versatile you have to be as a driver, how versatile you have to be as a crew chief to adapt to all these different racetracks that we go to. Next week we'll be on a 1.5 mile, one of the fastest tracks on the circuit. Right. So you just got to be able to adapt and adjust. And you know, and the weather's perfect. Speeds ought to be great. A lot of grip in the racetrack. Should be a happy day.
All right. Let's go downstairs to Chris Devoda.
Well, Kevin Harvick comes into Las Vegas as our new points leader. Kevin said this morning, hey, that's great, but it's only week 2. I would love to be in that position after about 7 or 8 months. Kevin said right now it doesn't really affect the team, except everyone's just a lot more relaxed. When you're not struggling, you can take your time to tweak, fine-tune things just a little bit more. And they're relaxed all throughout the RCR camp. All 3 cars in the top 5 in points, but Kevin has extra pressure to win this weekend. It's his anniversary on Sunday, and Delana wants something good. Matt Yoakum.
Krista, when you look at Mark Martin's racing resume, it's loaded with a number of firsts, including the honor of being the inaugural winner here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway back in 1998. Mark's big goal this year, pick up right where they left off last year, and that's what he's done. If you go back to the past 5 races, 3 times he has scored a finish of 4th, so they really have done a good job keeping that balance from 2009. The big agenda this session, like Mike talked about, this racetrack much bumpier than they were last week in Fontana. But really this team, they really feel like that they are so much farther ahead than last year, and they want to knock off that first win. Last year it took till April. This year they're hoping to do it in February. Mike?
Here's our Las Vegas Motor Speedway Sponsorifier track description.
You know, the biggest thing about this track is the average miles per hour here is only about 2 or 3 miles per hour slower than California. But you've got a half-mile less racetrack to work with, and like Darrell said, that progressive banking goes up to 20 degrees in the corner.
Yeah, our cars should race on banked racetracks. The flatter the track, the harder it is to hook the car up because they're so heavy and the tires are pretty small, really. When you get to a track like this with the progressive banking, that's when these cars really shine. Put on a good show.
A lot of new paint schemes this week, and there's 2 of them. And Kevin Harvick's been in the wall with that bright yellow Pennzoil car. Wow.
Yes, he has. Not good. Just up there high, and you got got the 48 going by on the inside. I don't know if that had any effect or not, but certainly up out of the groove.
We have caution. They're going to go check the racetrack, but that's actually, he hit that wall pretty hard. That's actually a lot of damage.
A lot of damage, it really is. And it's funny because I was just going to say, talking about how the RCR cars are running and how great a start they've had and how much fun it can be. The reason it's so much fun is when you got a good race car, it's got a lot of power on the hood, handling pretty good, you don't have to drive so hard. You don't have to make up for anything. You let the car do the work.
You know,
except in that case.
That was a brand new race car that was on the racetrack for the very first time.
Well, you know, the yellow car hit it right in the yellow part of the wall. I'm sure there's no consolation in that. Speed's coverage of NASCAR Sprint Cup practice in Las Vegas is brought to you by Honey Nut Cheerios. Be happy. Be healthy. Be bent. That is the 29 of Kevin Harvick. brand new Pennzoil car, and here he comes up out of the corner.
I really think the 48 car just got him moved up the track a little bit too far, and it's dirty. You can see all that dust and dirt flying, and I think that may be why he got up into gotten that loose stuff, hit the wall. Krista, what did he say about it?
Really, Daryl, the only thing he had said prior to that about his race car was that it was tight in the center. His teammate Jeff Burton is also fighting a tight car. They're obviously changing the tires, checking the toe on the car, but that was really all Kevin said right before that. He said tight in the center.
You know, I think they're going to fight that here, a lot like at California Speedway, because we talked about stagger a lot last week. The difference between the size of the left side tires and the right side tires, and Daryl, it's less than an inch here, which is not much stagger.
Well, it says a new left side tire, different construction. I think same compound, something they've learned from all the testing they've been doing that makes these cars handle better and drive better. I'm just not real sure about closing that stagger up, though, because it is hard to get these cars to turn with everything perfect, even you know, with the right stagger and the right setup and everything else.
As we watch Tony Stewart in the Old Spice Chevy, Daryl, every time we have one of these practice sessions, the fastest laps are put up right away on your first run, first time out of the box. How much pressure is it to get out there and lay down that quick lap right away, because you know the subsequent laps aren't going to be as fast?
Yeah, and I think that's something the drivers really concentrate on, because that's what it's going to be like when you get ready to go qualify. You know, you're going to jump in the car. They made changes to it, adjusted it maybe a little bit. So what you've got's what you've got. So you run out there and see what it'll do, and then, you know, wait if you have to.
They got the wrong foul on the side of that car. It should be the Stork, because baby Ann came to the Edwards family Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Ann was born, 8 pounds 4 ounces. To Carl and Kate, congratulations. Everybody's doing fine. And Carl was here bright and early this morning, ready to go.
And I have to believe, and I think Daryl would relate to this more than even myself, that has to be a big relief.
Oh, man.
Off of his shoulders.
It really is. And of course, leave it to Carl. You know, he's always marching to a beat of a different drum. Everybody else has a stork. He's got a duck. But no, it is, Larry. It's such a relief off your mind. The wife's fine, the baby's fine, you know, and that really is a lot of pressure off of you.
Guess who's fastest in practice?
It's not Mark Martin right now.
It's Dale Jr.
Yeah, 29.44.
Pretty good lap compared to everybody else.
Montoya is third quickest right now, and the Stork is headed for the Montoya household.
Yeah,
he is. He and his wife.
He knows the way. He's been there before, but
a couple of times.
July, August.
I think
July.
Midsummer. Yeah. Juan's going to be on our trackside show tonight, along with Danica Patrick. So we'll chat with him a little bit about that.
Yeah, when you walk out tonight, folks, about 5:30, there's nothing wrong out there. Matter of fact, it's all right, because we got Danica and Juan on the show tonight. So it'll probably be pretty crowded over there at the little speed stage at about 5:30.
Jeff Burton in the Cat car, and we want to take you back to last Sunday, because there still seems to be quite a bit of confusion over how Burton and I think it was Greg Biffle were on pit road along with no, it was Kyle Busch.
Right.
And the caution comes out right there for Keselowski's spin, with Jimmy Johnson on pit road along with Burton and Kyle Busch. Now you see circled the leader, Burton. Jimmy Johnson gets to the line out before Burton gets to the mark on the wall. So that means the pace car picks up Burton. Jimmy gets to come around, and the two other cars that were on pit road got trapped, and they were a lap down.
And you know, I sat down this morning with Jeff Burton, Kevin Harvick, and Clint Boyer, all three of the Richard Childress drivers, and he's going to tell us in that piece in our pre-race show on Sunday on Fox what his thoughts were right there.
Very good.
I know what mine would be. Dang. Dad, come.
Well, especially when he saw who ended up in victory lane.
That's right.
Well, he was in a tough position, because as leader of the race, NASCAR says when the yellow comes out, you have to slow down. Well, how slow is slow? And I guess that's the question.
That's what he'll tell us on Sunday.
Yeah. Whatever his slow was, it was a little too slow for him.
So I'm sorry, I probably got that wrong. Burton was leading the race.
Right. Yeah.
Kyle Busch was on pit road behind Jimmy Johnson.
And Greg Biffle.
Yes. Were on pit road.
And Biffle and Kyle Busch did not beat Burton back to that line. Jimmy Johnson did.
Yep. It's just another, you know, it's a combination of things. You got to give Chad Knaus credit. They could have aborted the pit stop. They could have grabbed 2 tires and had to come back in, but he went ahead, did his service, got out in front of the leader, and stayed on the lead lap.
And as we look at Ryan Newman's new paint scheme for, is it Tornadoes or Tornadoes? I'll have to check on that.
It's actually Tornadoes.
Tornadoes,
I think, yes.
okay. Yeah, there's a tornado on the hood. Gosh. Didn't Greg Biffle and Kyle Busch have the option of just doing a drive-through instead of stopping, and then they would have beaten Burton to the line and stayed on the lead line?
Absolutely.
Right.
As long as they didn't speed, as long as they didn't stop in their pit box, that's one of the new rules here in 2010.
Matt?
Mike, Denny Hamlin's back in the garage, already made a shock change, making a spring change on the left front. And this is one of those racetracks where Denny Hamlin would really like to step it up a notch. One of 3 tracks where he's never led a Sprint Cup Series lap. Also Chicagoland and Watkins Glen. Now he, like so many others, complaining about the car being tight, especially over the bumps down in turns 1. And he says the car just not in the racetrack.
That's something you fight here, is those bumps in 1 and 2. Jamie McMurray was actually telling us, you know, if your car's driving good, the bumps maybe don't upset it as much. But if you're a little loose or a little tight getting in there, it's going to make it looser or tighter.
I think what you'll see a lot of guys work on there is move up a little bit. Now, that may have been what Harvick was even doing. If you stay up off the bottom of the racetrack, it seems to be a little smoother. And I've noticed a lot of guys in 1 and 2, particularly getting into 1, are running a little bit higher line down there to avoid those bumps.
Martin Truex heading off into turn 1. He's the 3rd quickest Toyota on the track right now.
See how high he is right there? He's about a lane up off the bottom, and it seems to be a good bit smoother up there.
Well, I think by the time we get through the practices tomorrow and the Nationwide Series race, that groove will be up against that wall.
Oh, yeah. High, wide, and handsome.
4 Chevys in the top 5, split by Casey Kane's Ford.
Harry.
Tonight, Danica and Juan Pablo Montoya stop by the Ultimate Friday Night House Party. It's NASCAR Trackside, live tonight, 8:30 Eastern and only on Speed.
Larry, you see anything wrong with that scoring monitor?
I don't know if I would call it wrong, but a little different with Joe Nemechek just jumped up to 2nd spot, that Toyota.
Well, I was just looking at, you got 3 Hendry cars in the top 5, and Mark Martin in one of them.
No, because
that's totally unusual.
No, Mark is 20th.
That is very unusual.
Yeah. Second off, there's Montoya in the garage. He is 8th fastest. And here is front row Joe. And if we started on practice speeds, he would be on the front row, because right now he is 2nd fastest. And you can go to frontrowjoe.com and figure out how to sponsor that car, and it might not cost as much as you think, and would allow Joe to run all day on Sunday.
And you know, when you have a forecast like we have for tomorrow, and a lot of our top 35 working on race setup, that's kind of the box that these guys, the Gorgo Homers, are put in. They cannot worry about the race setup. Their first race is to get into the race.
Joey Logano, 12th fastest right now. He is now the 3rd fastest Toyota.
See what this 48 car runs there. He looks like he's on a flyer to me. He's coming around there pretty hot.
P2, just 2 1/1000ths off Junior's best lap.
He was getting it now.
You could tell that was a qualifier.
I could see that coming. He's going. A lot of places you go, like last week, the cars didn't look all that fast. Don't look like they're doing 210 miles. Here they look like they're doing 400 miles an hour around this joint. Man, they go through the corner fast here.
He's going to go ahead and run a 2nd lap. They probably want to find out now what characteristics the car picks up on lap 2. Slowed down just a little bit, about not even quite a half a tenth.
Not bad though, from first lap to 2nd.
No, when you can put together 2 laps like at that speed within 3 1/100ths of a second, that's pretty good.
Got that right.
Wow. Biffle is now the fastest Ford. He is 4th overall. Nemechek, the quickest Toyota.
Larry, I don't even think that the 48's on a qualifying run.
No, because he's running a 3rd lap.
Putting down some laps.
Brian Vickers coming off a photo finish in California. His teammate Scott Speed nipped him at the line for 11th place.
You know, speaking of Scott Speed, I was talking to his guys in his garage area this morning, Jimmy Elledge and that group, and I said, you know, you guys had a good run last week. They said we did. They said the thing that has changed Scott Speed's confidence and almost his outlook was leading those laps in the Daytona 500. Regardless of the circumstances, it just boosted his confidence. I can do this.
Yeah, well, you know what it also does for you, Larry? Your competitors come over and say, hey, man, nice job at Daytona. Just gives you a little encouragement, kind of makes you feel like you're one of the boys, you know, and that really means a lot to a driver that's trying to make his way into this sport.
Well, that's what Jamie Mack said. The best thing about winning the 500 was the congratulations he got from his peers, from the other drivers.
And plus his wife told him, you're a star now.
That helps too. Krista.
Well, Mike, someone else who's gaining a lot of confidence is Marcus Ambrose. He said that on his first lap on that last run, his car was great. But then on the second lap, he hit the bumps and it scooted up the racetrack. The third lap, he told his crew and crew chief Frankie Kerr, I was bouncing around like crazy. Marcus Ambrose said his car's a little free. Well, a lot free. They're changing a right front spring.
And I think the biggest thing they're going to be watching with this 47 car this weekend, regardless of how it drives, is trying to be running at the end of the race with all 8 cylinders in that engine hitting. They've had engine woes 2 weeks in a row.
Normally you change the right front spring or either front spring, from what the guys tell me. It's mainly just keep the car up off the track. It's not that maybe the car's just going in there and the spring's letting the car fall down a little too fast and hit the racetrack, because these guys pretty much run the same front springs everywhere they go.
Denny Hamlin, 22nd. He has run 7 laps. Dale Jr., Jimmy Johnson, Joe Nemechek quickest right now. New colors for Jamie Mack this week. If you look closely at the roof of that car, you'll find that McMurray is lettered just like everything else. McDonald's, McMuffin, McRib, McMurray.
Makes sense.
I'd say.
What do you think about that, Larry McReynolds?
Yeah, Mick. In Las Vegas, it's McMurray, McReynolds. We get to Atlanta next week, it'll be McMurray and McReynolds.
There you go, buddy.
Jamie's 20th quickest right now. He's run a total of 8 laps.
As long as it's McFast, probably doesn't care. Matt.
Mike, if Kurt Busch could win anywhere on the circuit, it would definitely be right here. His #1 visit, also his home racetrack, Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Best finish here, 3rd. Right now, though, struggling early on during this practice session. 2 runs, and the feedback is exactly the same. Touching the splitter on the nose, the car tight. Definitely tighter over the bumps. Significant changes by crew chief Steve Addington and car chief Jeff Thousand in the front and the back of the car here, taking some big swings early on.
Matt, he just told him to put it like he had that 18 car here last year, and it'll be all right.
Steve, talking about Steve Addington.
Steve Addington, yeah.
But you know the thing about it, which here's Kyle Busch in the 18 right now that won this race a year ago. He's 5th quickest. Kurt actually qualified on the outside of the front row. Kyle was on the pole. Kurt's never started outside the top 10 here in 9 races, so qualifying's always been one of his strong suits.
It's got to be fun, though, guys, coming back to your hometown. And sort of hometown heroes, both those boys are. Go down to your high school, see all your old high school buddies. That's fun. That gives you a little bit of a little more incentive when you come to this racetrack if you live here.
I was getting used to seeing Biffle's car with Bondo on the front of the hood, but and there may be some under the paint job. I'm not saying there's not, but the 3M Ford is right now 3rd fastest overall, and now he is the quickest Ford.
Biff's got his act together. That team's functioning pretty well right now.
You know, for many years, Roush Racing, now Roush Fenway, has been the Ford house team in NASCAR, much as the Wood brothers once was. Now with Richard Petty Motorsports and Roush Fenway Racing, wonder how much intramural competition there is between the two to have the best results every week in practice, qualifying, and the race.
Well, you know, with an organization, I think it's such a fine line. And, you know, I work for multi-car teams. And, you know, you want to work together because there's strength in numbers. And I think that's one of the things that Rick Hendrick has done a phenomenal job over there with Hendrick Motorsports is demanding that we are one team fielding 4 cars. But there's no question, it's human nature. You don't want the other team to outperform you. You don't want to run second or run behind that other team. But I think that also drives you to be better when you have that internal competition.
And the other thing about it is back in the day, we didn't have a lot of A parts. You had a few A parts, you had some B parts, and you had a whole lot of C parts. And so when you built an engine, yeah, there could be 20 horsepower difference in a A engine and a C engine. But today, everything they have is the same. The engines are all the same, the cars are all the same, the parts are all the same. It's the people that put it all together that make the difference.
Clint Boyer up to, I believe, second in the points behind Kevin Harvick.
I think he's about 19, I think it is, behind Harvick.
Yep. Which is quite a 1-2 for Richard Childress Racing, considering what an off season they had last year.
Yep.
I mean, it's early, but boy, the early returns are good, as they say in politics.
Well, you look at the fact that Jeff Burton's sitting back there 5th in the points. 3 drivers out of RCR in the top 5 in points. 3 drivers in the top 10 at California. 3 drivers in the top 11 at Daytona 2 weeks ago.
Well, the big turnaround was last year with 4 races to go. We've talked about it, swapping team personnel, crew chiefs, everything that Richard has done in the last 6 races, counting the last 4 of 09 and the first 2 of 010 or 2010. The 3 drivers that have scored the most points are the 3 Childress drivers. So is Richard Childress Racing back? Oh, yes.
And I'd say the thing they feared the most was when the checkered flag waved at Homestead. Can we keep this corralled and lassoed till 2010 starts?
So far, so good. Sunday. Can I get a Sunday out of you?
Oh, another Sunday. I'm sorry. I thought you were doing your best Jan Gabriel, and I was going to tell you it wasn't very good.
No, it's not, but it's NASCAR race day built by the Home Depot. And, you know, Jimmy Johnson, Mark Martin, Denny Hamlin, Tony Stewart, the Busch brothers live on race day. We just won't put that one on the promo reel, will we? Sorry, I should have given you a little more warning.
Yeah, well, I was looking at the qualifying lineup, and I know last week Clint Boyer went out first, and he said, well, that ain't going to be so hot, you know. And today Jimmy Johnson goes out first. We'll see what his take on that is.
Now, last week, the early draw was the one to have.
That's it.
New colors for David Rudiman.
You know, I read something yesterday on David Rudiman that was pretty interesting. It seems like there's no question the 1.5-mile, 2-mile racetrack suits him a little better than maybe some of the other tracks. You know, he won it at Charlotte Motor Speedway. But in the last 10 races at 1.5-mile tracks, David has scored the 2nd most points of any other driver, second only to Jeff Gordon. So I think that solidifies that he excels at 1.5-mile racetracks and had a great run, got his first top 5 finish in his career here a year ago.
Well, I'm not doing a Tums commercial, okay?
Okay.
But based on what we got going on in the garage area these days with all the driver's wives, Tums is the only antacid that doctors recommend to pregnant women. So I
didn't know where he was going with that.
just a little nugget.
You had me uncomfortable for a second.
Krista, what do you think of all that?
Well, you have me uncomfortable the fact that you're tossing to me after that, because I don't know where to go with that, except to maybe tell you a little bit about Joey Logano's race car. I'm going to change subjects entirely. Joey's saying the car is getting tighter and tighter the longer he runs. When he came back in, he said, I need it to be a little more free late on exit, but don't change the entry. I'm fine there. He did say as he carries the speed, he can't hold the nose. So the crew made quite a few changes and sent him back out there. And as they sent him out, said, let's give this a whirl.
So, Krista, I'm a little confused. All the things that we've talked about and you've talked about on these practice shows.
Yes.
And pregnant women and Tums makes you nervous?
No, it doesn't make. It only makes me nervous, and I'll say something that will make you guys even more uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah. Well, now that makes me nervous.
That's my job.
Joey's run a total of 14 laps in this 20 car, and 15th quickest right now.
We talked at the top of the show about the progressive banking at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and it is slight but significant. When they repaved this racetrack, the bottom lane is banked 18 degrees. The center of the track is banked 19, and the top of the track is banked 20 degrees. The idea being that every lane is just as fast as the other. If you have to travel the longer radius, you get a little more banking to help you carry as much speed, so that if you go into the corner side by side, you'll come off the corner side by side.
Well, honestly, two of the racetracks we struggled to have good racing was here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway and Homestead Miami Speedway. Both tracks did the same thing, and now it's some of the best racing we have at those two tracks.
See what the CD8 car does there. He's on a pretty fast lap.
Wow, 21, 29, 21. That is by a couple of tenths the fastest lap of the day.
I've been watching race cars go around racetracks a long time. I don't think I've ever seen cars go through the corner as fast as these guys are here this weekend. They are booking through that corner, baby.
I'm going to tell you what, that's less than 2/10 slower than the track record. Track record is 29:03 set by Kyle Busch, actually last year.
It just looks fast to me today.
It does.
Why, you know, it's track record fast, so it's got to be fast.
We
right?
might get to see it this afternoon.
That's right. We'll warm up here in a little bit.
Better. Overall grip was better.
Going to have all the greats in the show today. Jan Gabriel, Tom Carnegie, on and on. And Matt Yoakum.
And where's Ken Squire when we need him?
Yeah.
And down here in the 14 garage, Stewart, you're talking about going after the pole. He's never won a pole here. Best start was second back in '06. Breaking down the corner for the car that so far is 13th fastest. He told Darian Grubb, Stewart did, that the car was decent for the first third of the corner, but then it got tight from the center off and definitely worse down in 3 and 4. Making headway, they wanted to back up. One change they made in the previous run because he felt like it actually went a little too far. But believe it or not, February, the only month in Tony Stewart's Sprint Cup career, he's never won a Sprint Cup race.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. still quickest in this practice. Hometown hero Kurt Busch is the quickest Dodge. He is 18th overall. He's the first Dodge to crack the top 20 in this practice session. Now, in the first minute of practice, Kevin Harvick whacked the wall pretty hard. Krista is to give us an update.
Yeah, well, Kevin still sits in his race car. The crew's still working on the right side, trying to fix that body damage. Gil Martin just coming over to survey the work. And when they first checked out the car, Gil said, you know, the toe, the camber, everything looked okay. They just really have to work on the body damage. Kevin, talking to his crew a little bit, discussing when he gets back out there what line to run, talked about how dirty the racetrack, all the dust that flew up when he hit the wall.
You know, Kevin's one of the Sprint Cup Series drivers that was actually out on the racetrack earlier in Nationwide Series practice.
It's only dirty up there where he was.
Yeah, yeah.
If he just get down there in the groove, he'll be okay.
David Reagan, 27th with a 29.91. That's 7/10 off of what Dale Jr. ran, but Reagan has run 21 laps and obviously still in race trim.
You know, this is a fast racetrack, but David was moving at a lot faster speed than this yesterday. He was actually over at Nellis Air Force Base flying with the Thunderbirds.
Car looks pretty good. You can see his hands, and it's not sawing on the wheel. That's a good thing.
Meanwhile, they had a pretty good oil down in the garage area from the number 42 of Montoya. So quite a bit of cleanup there. He left quite a trail going through the garage. Something undone, perhaps.
Trying to see how many laps he's run 11 laps. He's actually been out on the racetrack 3 times.
Casey Kane is now the second fastest Ford. He's 13th overall as he comes out to make his 3rd run.
Just looks like the Ford, they don't have blazing speed like the Chevrolets do right now, and a couple of the Toyotas. But Seems like when it gets ready to race, they got a little bit better race package.
That was definitely the case at California last week.
Well, we've checked with Montoya's crew, and they are saying wasn't us. So,
which raises another question.
We'll investigate further.
Who is it? Somebody's leaking oil.
It should not be that hard to figure out.
Matt?
And I asked Brian Patty, about the speculation that they might have been the oil leak culprits. He says, nope, not us. In fact, we had a right rear tire going down, so we just decided to utilize the time properly and just swap over to our qualifying setup. That's why you see the car up on the scales and Juan Pablo out of the cockpit at this juncture. But that's the game plan here on the 42.
They was talking about the track record, and Junior's about a 10th off of it right there. I think these boys get in real full-blown qualifying trim. We're probably going to see a track record,
especially if it stays cloudy and overcast like this.
All right, the latest word from the garage is we'll move just one digit and have a look at the 43 of A.J. Allmendinger as perhaps being the car that oiled down the lane into the garage area.
We've had 44 cars out on the track to practice. The only car that's not practice is Robbie Gordon at 7 car. We've had 45 cars here, meaning 2 cars will go home. It's really the same group of cars that were at California last week, with the exception of Johnny Sauter in that 35 car of Tommy Baldwin Racing.
Sam Hornish, 24th on the board. And now he's the fastest Dodge. He moves up to 16th with that lap.
Tell you what, he was up there
66.
Racing with the big boys last week, doing a pretty good job.
Qualified good, qualified 8th, and actually quietly finished 16th. He's run a total of 22 laps, which David Rudem and David Reagan, they've run 27 and 25 laps.
Have a Max Pappas sighting.
Yeah, Max was out for a few laps.
Jumped up to 8th quick, 7th quick.
7th.
Bunch of those go-or-go homers making mock qualifying runs as practice rolls on in Vegas. How would you like to save 10% on your NASCAR gear? I thought you would. Just go to the Speed Store, speedtv.com/NASCAR store. Enter the promo code SPEED10. Receive a 10% discount on all your NASCAR merchandise.
There's 2 big holes in the back of that thing give a whole new meaning to tailpipes. I can tell you
yes,
that.
they do. Yes, they do.
Oh, yeah.
And what they have that flies them around puts a whole new meaning to horsepower.
That's right.
Well, here's some fellows who are all looking for horsepower because these are the go-or-go homers. And as Larry mentioned, 2 of them will go home. Bobby Labonte will not be one of those because he has the past champions provisional if needed. Driving for Kevin Buckler.
There's not a lot of cars out there right now, but we're getting close to that mode. This hour and a half goes by very quick. And we're getting, I think, where a lot of the cars that maybe were working on race runs, now they're flipping over to qualifying trim. And I know we talk a lot about that, and it would take a while to describe all the things that would change. One of the big things they'll do is maybe move weight toward the front of the car, more nose weight to help keep the car nice and snug when you tape it up and you're out there on a qualifying run.
Last week, remember we were talking about Dale Jr. and he got ready to go qualify. He had no brakes. We're talking about the changes. That was one of the things they had done. They had changed to qualifying brakes, and it failed to tell Dale Jr., I guess, or to pump the brakes up. And so when he went for the pedal, he didn't have anything. Rather shocking at 210 mile an hour.
I would say that'll get you attention.
Here's Paul Menard, and I believe I heard as we were coming up to the booth that he was quick in Nationwide Series practice.
Paul runs good in that Nationwide Series car. He always does, running the full schedule in both divisions this year.
I think we made the point last week, and it's true, Larry, that when he runs that Nationwide car, I think it helps his overall program.
Paul's had a couple of decent runs, finished 13th at Daytona and finished 18th, so 2 top 20 finishes for him to start the year off.
Okay, Menard was fastest in that practice.
I heard everything from first to eighth in my headset.
Yeah, I know. It's okay.
But I think we've determined he was the fastest.
He was fastest. Brian Vickers 27th. Not sure he's made a qualifying run yet. That last run was above 30 seconds, that last lap. Right now, 4 of the go-homers among the top 10 overall, and that's Nemechek, Pappas, Bliss, and McDowell.
You know, Mike Bliss had a pretty solid weekend. You know, qualified that car in and ended up with a good solid, I think, top 25 finish. In fact, the qualifying run and the finish run that he had was the best ever in both categories for Tommy Baldwin Racing.
Let's check with Matt.
Ryan Inman, Mike, 5th on the board. Unique colors from Tornadoes this week. We were joking around because high tech, it seems to hit NASCAR more and more every year. You had the handheld computer system. We're joking around, but even back in your day, the old engineer, you had a computer for your midgets.
Yeah, I had my own setup notebook. I built my own Excel spreadsheet and all that stuff back in the late 90s, which was still 10 years late by a lot of people's standards. But for me, it was a while ago. And our Tornado Chevrolet is pretty good so far. I'm really happy with the way it came off the truck and the adjustments we've made. So let's keep working on it. We're going over to Q-Trim now.
For a lot of the fans watching, we've talked a lot about the bumps here compared to Fontana. How different is it from a driver's standpoint?
Really, what's really the most different is end to end. It's pretty rough down there, and it's not rough at all down here. So it's kind of like Phoenix, where you set up for 2 different ends. One's bumpy and one's not, versus one's a different radius and one's not. So you just, as a driver and as a crew chief, you have to compensate a little bit here and there. But I think it's a great racetrack. It reminds me a lot of Charlotte, and you know I like Charlotte.
Absolutely. Always fast on these intermediate racetracks.
Thanks, Matt. David Gilliland has run 10 laps. The quickest is a 30.55.
He's kind of struggling with his 2 teammates, Travis Quapple and Kevin Conway. They are 34th, or 41st, 42nd, and 43rd right now. Morissette is the slowest of the 44 cars. I heard one driver say, Las Vegas Motor Speedway, that you almost have to attack this racetrack, that you drive every lap almost like it's a qualifying lap, and I think that's what we're seeing in some of these race runs that these cars are making.
Here's Eric Almirola, who is 7th among the Go Home group. He has run just 6 laps. Kyle Busch is now the 4th quickest Toyota on the board, 11th overall. Krista.
Mike, you guys were just talking about attacking this racetrack. That is something Kyle Busch certainly does not have a problem with, actually, anywhere we go. He said his race car was about a 4 tight in 1 and 2. Well, in the last run, he said even tighter. He couldn't even get it to the bottom. They made a shock change. Said, Kyle, go back out. When you come back in, they've got the qualifying tires ready.
You know, you think about what he and Steve Addington did here a year ago. They sat on the pole. They had engine problems, as a lot of the Toyotas did in practice last year. He had to go to the rear of the field and came back to win this race.
Greg Biffle remains the fastest Ford and 3rd overall. The rest of the top 5 are all Chevys. Then the Toyotas of Nemechek and Pappas.
We found the oil.
It's a long walk around this garage area, especially when you're carrying that bucket full of Speedy Dry and covering up the oil spill that we believe now came from A.J. Allmendinger's car. But Larry, let me ask you about the layout here for these Sprint Cup teams. The way they come in and out of the garage area, not so much for the Nationwide, but with the big neon garage structure that's in the center. The teams enter the garage area there and start their way around. But regardless of where their garage stall is, because of this big garage structure, the way it's laid out, they're going to have to work their way all the way around, back down, and then out to the racetrack here. All that juking and running around this place at low speed, tight turns and all that, does that take a toll?
Where it really takes a toll and becomes an aggravation is when you know you only have 4 to 5 minutes of practice left and you're trying to get your car in the garage area, make an adjustment or make a change, and get him back out there.
And that, and also I can think back going through garages kind of like this, where the rear end has that ratchet in it, and it'll set back there, and as you go through here slow speed, you'll feel that rear end ratchet. You'll feel that ratchet locking and unlocking.
Sounds like it's coming apart.
And you'll hear that. You'll hear it sometime in the car. Clink, 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 clink. And you know, that's damage could be done.
Well, instead of think clink, think pink, because this is Tommy Baldwin's new paint scheme, and it must be working because they're 8th fastest. The Kim Kardashian fragrance. You know, I never thought I'd see.
Now, did Myers make a reference to Kim Kardashian last week?
Probably.
More than likely he did.
Maybe
something about the gas and go questions were hidden under an encyclopedia on her bookcase or something.
Why would she have an encyclopedia?
Why would Chris Myers say that?
Moving right along.
I don't know. I was asking for any feedback.
Let's go back and talk about the stork on Carl's car.
Tom, that's a good subject. Tom.
Kim Kardashian will be here on Sunday, and maybe she and Chris can have a meeting of the minds.
Well, no one else has ever been able to, so we'll see.
Wouldn't take very long.
But you know, the good thing back to her is it's something on that race car.
That's
right.
Sponsor
on that race
is a sponsor.
Yes, sir. Tommy Baldwin ran his car so much last year with blank quarter panels, and that's a sponsor. And we know he plans on racing on Sunday.
You remember in the movie Stroke a Race where Burt Reynolds had to put on the chicken suit? I got to wear what? I got to do what? Say, hey, we have a sponsor. They have a sponsor.
So where do you think Mike Bliss is going to come into this at?
Not going to have to wear a chicken suit.
But he's going to smell good.
Engine change for A.J. Allmendinger, so it was not just something left loose. It might have been something broken.
So when he goes out to qualify, it will be for pit selection only, and to just you get a couple of laps, especially when you think about the forecast tomorrow, that they may be the only laps they get with that engine they're putting in, because regardless if it happens before or after qualifying, you change engines, you go to the rear of the field to start the race.
But since we're on the subject of all these different things, do you know what tornadoes are?
I do.
Other than being in Kansas? No.
It's the bold taste of savory meats. Real cheese and zesty sauce rolled in a crisp seasoned crust. Crisp.
Have you tried them? We'll get some samples.
Well, I asked and I found out.
All right. Sprint brings you what's happening now in the Now Network. Top speed of this practice session, Dale Earnhardt Jr. 184.8 miles an hour, 29.21 seconds.
Here goes a guy right here that might be on a qualifying run. I believe he is. Watch this thing zing through the corner. Baby is digging, man. It comes off that corner. It's got to be running 190 mile an hour.
A lot like we saw at California, even though the groove was all over the place in the race. Qualifying, you'll be right around the bottom of this racetrack in the corners.
His best lap so far, 29.44 for Jimmy Johnson, third quickest, top of the board.
29.17. We just keep getting closer and closer to that track record.
I knew he was on a flyer.
But we do get a feeling that probably Dale Earnhardt Jr. might be back out there for one more practice qualifying run.
Yeah, he went back out just a second ago. Didn't run quite as quickly as he did on his fast lap. He ran a 38, so they're working on her now, though. What are they doing, Chris? They're putting new tires on that bad boy?
Yeah, they've been doing a little bit of everything. The crew has actually been thrashing on this 88. Just about every guy down here has had his hands on this race car. Lance McGrew poking his head into the window, talking to his driver, Dale Earnhardt Jr. Jr. saying his race car was a little harsher on the right front on that last run, actually 2 runs ago. So that's kind of what they've been focusing on, just giving him a little bit better handling car. But yeah, Dale Jr. will be back out there any minute.
You know, they reconfigured this place headed into 2007, and before that reconfiguration, Dale Earnhardt Jr., we did a race here where they actually went to the garage area and changed springs.
Yeah,
he struggled
right.
so much, but actually this has been a pretty good racetrack for him since they reconfigured it. If you think back, 2 years ago, finished second, and those 3 races all are top 11 finishes, so it's been a good track for him.
Now this is kind of a different day, because when did we last go a whole hour into the practice session and not talk about Mark Martin at the top of the board?
We might hear in just a few seconds. We'll have to see.
He's 13th, 29.62, and he picks it up to 4th fastest with a 29.39.
That's you know, that's a couple tenths off of his teammate Jimmy Johnson.
I think they worked on their, you know, a lot of these guys don't think there'll be any practice tomorrow. So I'm thinking if you're really thinking about if you're working on race setup more than you are qualifying.
Because if you think about it, and I think we talked about this at California last Friday, the Hendrick cars, especially the 5, the 24, and the 48, on a normal 3-day show, they work on nothing but qualifying on Friday's practice.
Uh-oh, is that Jeff?
They just sit there just a minute.
Now, there are 2 rounds of practice scheduled for tomorrow. The forecast is calling for rain. I'll have to check with our storm scout in Los Angeles, because last week's Saturday forecast was off the mark by 100%.
Is that
not his forecast, but the forecast for rain all day?
All I know is Sunday when it was raining off the back straightaway over there, and we could smell it and feel it and see it, and we got that race in, and we left the racetrack, and I think it was 30 minutes maybe, or a little more, and it was pouring down rain at the track.
It
now,
was.
How many times do we have to tell you about the dadgum vortex theory?
I got the longest email and saw posted on some website. Daryl and Mike, shut up, because scientists have debunked the vortex theory time and time and time again. So I don't care about science. Anecdotal evidence, what we see, what we feel. We got that racing.
That's the
I'm
same
a believer.
That's the same scientists that talk about global warming all the time. And you might tell those folks up on the East Coast right now with 2 feet of snow that might be debunked as well.
Let's see what Jeff Gordon does here. Right now he's 15th quickest. Let's see if he's going to join his teammates up there in the top 5.
Why not?
4th quickest.
That's
so
a why
we've
not.
got 5 Chevrolets in the top 5. 4 of those 5 are Hendrick cars. A great article yesterday in the USA Today about Jeff Gordon. I would encourage, if you've not read it, to take a look at it. Jeff says he plans on racing for a while. He wants his family to enjoy his success.
And not to hurt anybody's feelings, Larry, because whether or not, we'll be here tomorrow.
That's true.
Right. Now the Truck Series' newest star, Timothy Peters, leads the field into Atlanta, where everybody runs on the ragged edge. It's the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series live from Atlanta, March 6th, 1:30 Eastern, only on Speed.
He'll be driving that number 17 truck.
Must be something about that number.
It's magic, I'm telling you. Pearson told me that. Jake told me that a long time ago. That's the magic number.
We've got Harvick back out on the racetrack, so it's taken this RCR 29 crew roughly about an hour to get this thing back where they want it. Hit the wall right at the beginning of practice. Right now he's 37th quickest in this 29 car, but you get a feeling they have not put new tires on this car. Well, I would say they probably had to because of the way he hit the wall over there.
And you got Boyer up there in 6th spot, and where is the 31 car? He's somewhere up in there.
Over on page 2, 31st.
Whoa, got a little work to do. Of course, you'd expect Shane Wilson to show out a little bit here in Vegas, since it's in his home, but he raced out of here for a while.
Clint Boyer's crew chief.
Yeah, Clint Boyer's crew chief he was with Brendan Gaughan for quite a while.
Right here in shops right at the Speedway.
Nemechek early in the session was 3rd fastest. Now that lap stands at 10th. But Joe is still the quickest to the go or go homers.
And we mentioned earlier that Robbie Gordon's the only car that had not practiced. Robbie has been out there now. He's 42nd quickest in that 7 car.
Boris said kind of trails the speed chart, much like last week at Fontana.
Unlike all the other cars, Larry, that car just doesn't look like it's down in the track. It's just kind of skipping along the top there, nose up pretty high. Looks like it's skating quite a bit. There you go, dippity-doo-dah day right there. bam, 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 and up the hill it goes.
But you know, Mike, you talked about the last, I think, 6 races for RCR, the point situation. When you look at that duo right there, that's the amount of time they've been together. Todd Berrier and Jeff Burton, their worst finish was that 11th place in the Daytona 500 since they've been put together.
Krista?
Yeah, Jeff Burton just bringing the 31 into the garage. He gets out, and this is what he said to Todd Berrier. He gets out and he makes this motion, and it was literally like a wave. He's talking about those bumps in turn 1. His car is also tight on exit in turn 4.
Well, I think that kind of supports what Ryan Newman was talking about. The ends of the racetrack are totally different as far as the bumps and the way you, especially the way you exit the corner.
Denny Hamlin's been working hard to find speed in this session. Now, he has not yet made a mock qualifying run. That's why he's 34th on the chart. But he has only 1 lap under 30 seconds. So let's see what he does here on this mock Q run.
Well, you know, for a team that was predicted to be a challenger for to win the Cup this year and be in the chase, he's off to a bad start. 17th at Daytona, 29th last week at Fontana, and he sits 21st in the points. That's not what they were expecting out of this team, I can assure you.
But that's a pretty good lap right there, Matt. 29.47, 9th quickest for Hamlin.
Really picked it up so far, Mike. And when you go back and you look at the different comments from each run during this practice session when he was in race trim, the car was just pretty tight every single run and on top of the racetrack. They also have done something that you see teams do here in the past. He ran in a half a lap set of scuff tires for possible use later. But right now, though, that was a very solid lap for the 11.
Yeah, you'll put those tires on and you'll just roll them around the racetrack. That's what we call rolling them in. And all you're doing is just knocking that little edge off of them. So when you tear out of the pits to qualify, you don't get real squirrely or tires do something you don't expect.
Casey Mears in the 90 driving for Raymond Key. And this is pretty much a make or break race for this group. They've missed the show at Daytona by about a car length in their dual 150 race, their Gatorade race. Missed the show last week in California. And this is a team that without sponsorship, we were told at the start of the year only had about 6 races worth of funding. So unless they start making some races, it's going to be tough for them to continue. So they got to go here.
Yeah, and unless they find some speed, right now they're one of the 2 slowest of the Go homers, Casey Mears and Dave Blaney. Right now they're 34th and 35th.
Juan Montoya is the new name at the top of the chart, along with Sam Hornish. You know, first I wondered if that was part of some simulation, but now I see it's a fan up in the neon garage with a spinning reel that he probably got at Bass Pro Shop, and he's dropping down the die-cast car and a Sharpie, hoping that his fishing will catch Jeff Burton's autograph.
You know, the first time I ever saw this done was actually at Indianapolis Motor Speedway when the cars and drivers would go in and out of Gasoline Alley, but I guess now they're doing it a lot of these racetracks where the fans, you talked about the neon garage. One thing that's so neat about it, Mike, is the fans are up above the garages, and there's actually windows that you can look in almost over the race cars as the crews are working on them. It's a very cool concept.
Regan Smith coming off track. Boy, he's had some good runs of late. Let's check back with Matt.
And Mike, another one of those fast forwards belongs to Casey Kane in the 9, back to the familiar red Budweiser colors. So what was the most positive thing that stood out to you about your run the last time on the track with this?
We've been kind of fighting through the holes. I think a lot of people haven't won. It's kind of rough there and getting tight through them. We're getting ready for our first qualifying run now, but our Budweiser Ford seems pretty decent. I'm glad it's red again. Maybe that'll bring us some better luck.
You had some good luck last night as an owner.
Yeah, Brad Sweet won another midget race. I think he's 2 for 2 this year in the USAC midgets, so they're doing a good job. And the Outlaws tonight, we got 3 cars tonight over there. It should be a good time.
Now that's the neat thing about this place here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. So many different types of racing because you've got the big track here, and then you can walk across at night and go to the short track.
The dirt track at Las Vegas Motor Speedway is just out behind the main grandstand. There's a short track, a road course, and a big drag strip. You can do just about any kind of professional racing you want to do right here on this complex.
Yeah, Casey Kane and Tony Stewart both are out there as owners at the dirt track.
Well, Casey Kane's another guy, though, Larry. He's got some work to do.
Yes.
They're off to a bad start. 30th at Daytona and 34th last week at Fontana. And he's been running better than that. Just no results.
Well, and I think that's the thing. I did a thing on radio this morning, and they were talking about the teams that are in the hole. And I said, well, you've got two different types of teams that are in a hole. You've got teams that are not performing with bad finishes, and you've got teams like Casey Kane in the 9 that are running well, that are just don't have the finishes. And I think the best example from 2009 would be Mark Martin. You know, he was sitting almost 35th in points 4 races into the year, and we know, of course, what he went on to do.
Kevin Harvick back on track for another run. Let's go back to the garage and Krista.
Yeah, Mike, and if you're just joining us in this practice session, he hasn't been out there very long. Remember, he got into that into the wall at the very start of this practice. They went out about 1:03. They were out there for about 5 minutes before he came back in. Some of the tape on the right side skirt was falling off, so they had to get some of that off, and then they also changed the left front spring. Right now, Kevin is out there on sticker right side tires and scuffs on the left.
Well, he just ran the fastest lap that he's run in this practice session. But the problem is it's about 9/10 off of what Montoya has run.
Yeah, his car just looks a little bit unstable. Looks like it's not.
All right, no problem.
Tell you, when you hit the wall right off on your first time out in practice, it just puts you behind. It takes a little while to get caught back up.
You know what he was doing right there? I think he was actually, this is a very tricky pit road to get on, Darrell. And you heard him talk to Billy O'Dea's spotter about his pit road clear. He was actually practicing, I think, getting on the pit road at speed.
Yeah, this place here will get your attention, trying to cut off that banking down on the flat into the pits. See somebody violate that cone violation 3 or 4 times during the race.
You saw Travis Kvapil coming in. He's moved almost into the top 25. And here's Joey Logano, 13th fastest. Montoya's lap is faster than the current track record that was set by Kyle Busch here last year. So we have a very, very good chance of a new track record in qualifying this afternoon.
You know, watching our race last week from Auto Club Speedway with Joey Logano and Greg Biffle, watching the Nationwide Series race on Saturday, watching the Nationwide Series race there in the fall, a lot's been said about Brad Keselowski and Denny Hamlin, but do we have another little rivalry forming here between Joey Logano and Greg Biffle? It's not just happened one time, so I guess we'll have to see.
You know, they're just two drivers that have a magnetic attraction, Larry. We've seen this in the past. You don't go looking for trouble, but somehow it finds you.
And you know, when we interview those two guys, it's amazing. Their stories are completely different.
How about that? Speed's presentation of NASCAR Sprint Cup practice in Las Vegas. Brought to you by the Sponsorifier. Visit ToyotaRacing.com today. Click on, design it, enter it. Big crowd on hand here for practice, and a lot of folks up on the upper tier balcony of the Neon Garage. There are historic race cars on display down there in the center section, and folks up above looking for autographs. And I wonder if they've been in town to check the odds on winning Sunday's Shelby American. Jimmy Johnson, a 7-2 favorite. Kyle Busch currently at 5-1. And Gordon, Biffle, Martin, and Stewart all below 10-1. What were the odds on Jamie Mack to win the Daytona 500? They
30,
were 30 something
30
to
1, I think it was.
How'd that work out? Yep. I would bet not many of us had Jamie Mack.
No. Probably not. That's the reason the odds were so high.
And that's the reason so many people watch.
Wouldn't even have been him if it had been a normal race, 500 miles. It wouldn't have been him. It had to go into overtime for it to be him.
Right. Krista?
I want to give you an update on Dale Earnhardt Jr. He said on that qualifying run, he said he was a little snug rolling the center on the first lap, but on lap number 2, just plowing. Came back in, they're going to put sticker tires on and head back out for another Q run.
And we're getting down where there'll only be about time for one more run to do it and do it right. You know, you want to fill it up with fuel as you see them doing, fresh tires. You have to really cool the engine down because you're going to put all that tape on it. So about one more run's all these guys will get as far as a qualifying run.
Then you got to find a spot on the track where you're not getting a whiff of a draft of somebody else to really get a true picture of how you're running.
And I think more so here than the draft is just you don't want that distraction. You don't want to be watching a car out in front of you when you're making a practice.
Yeah, I heard some people talking about last week, at Michigan, or at California, big, long 2-mile track. You do feel the draft. The difference in Daytona and Talladega, when you feel the draft, it pulls you up and pulls you past the guy you're catching. There, you feel it pulling you up, but when you get there, that's it. It's just like we saw with Kevin Harvick. It'll suck you up to that car, but then the draft goes away, and it all comes down to how your car handles through the corner.
Never ever thought I'd hear you call Kevin Harvick a suck up.
He's a rookie.
Still. Brad Keselowski moves into the top 10, 9th fastest now.
We had a problem that time. That flew through 1 and 2, and it felt like it got on the splitter going into 3, or closed something up, and it just took off.
Even so, that's Gordon's fastest lap today, and he is 4th quickest.
I'm going to tell you, even the middle of this week, I would still think about his qualifying run last week where he came off turn 2. Went, oh, brother.
I mean, he knows. And we've heard him do it. He knows when he's on a good one.
Right.
He can come off turn 4 and he says, it's going to be a good one, boys.
Yes.
But last week was funny. Oh, boy.
All right, Montoya has the fastest lap of the day ahead of Sam Hornish. And before we look at his run, let's check with Matt.
And Mike, the newest dirt track owner in America, Greg Biffle, getting ready to go back out for one more run. Now, Greg Irwin, his crew chief, they made 3 pretty big changes. One of the changes, they went a little extra step because they knew they weren't going to have time for a second run. So that way they can always back off 1 step. But Biffle was 9th fastest. With so many guys knocking off some great laps here near the end of the session, he has dropped down to 12. But he said the car did feel pretty good down in 1 and 2.
As you mentioned, Greg is part owner now of Sunset Speedway in Banks, Oregon, a 1/3 mile clay oval. Here comes Montoya. 29.006 is the fastest lap of the day.
If he's going to go sub 29 seconds.
Ooh, not that time. 30.43.
Yeah, that's I don't see how in the world, watching the car, that was a practice qualifying run.
No, I don't think it was. I think they're trying something else. Maybe, I don't know, buffed in a set of tires. I doubt it. But
we'll try to check on that because that was just a 1 lap and a 1 and done off the pace. Now, here's the 2nd fastest driver in town, Sam Hornish, with a 29.01, also faster than the track record, the official track record that's held by Kyle Busch.
Sort of interesting. There's Hornish 2nd, Keselowski 9th, and you go all the way over to 29th to find their teammate, Kurt Busch.
Hornish's lap is not quicker, but we still have 7.5 minutes. We're going to try to change the order at the top of the board. Just about 4 minutes left in this session. A lot of cars lined up to take their final runs. Now, Montoya is fastest, but a few moments ago he went out and ran 1 lap, Matt, that was a full second off his fastest lap. What was he up to?
Mike, when Brian Patty, his crew chief, walks through the gate on Friday morning, he has a set game plan of what he wants to accomplish and how he's going to do it during that practice session. According to the game plan, he wanted to roll in a set of tires for qualifying. The car's done for this practice session, going up on scales, but that was the method to their madness.
And Darrell, you talked about that earlier. And when you roll that set in, you don't want to abuse them. You don't want to slide the front tires or get the rear tires mad by getting the car loose. You just want to go around the racetrack, as he did, about 1.5 seconds off from what his fast time is.
Yeah, it just stabilizes the tires. They got that slick finish on them when they're brand new, and the stickers. So when you can roll them in, it kind of just knocks that edge off of them. So when you haul Bud out of pit down there, you got grip and traction, and you don't have to have the tires sliding around on you.
Here's Jeff Burton, 15th quickest, and he just ran his quickest lap of the session prior to coming out this time. Dale Jr. was the top of the speed chart for a while, Krista. Now he's in 7th.
Well, he is focused right now on turning a solid lap. When he brought his car back in, he actually told his crew it was tighter than it's been, and then he used one word 3 times in a row: junk, junk, junk. They thrash, they put on the tires, send him back out. He's trying to do it again.
Well, that is so confusing. You're at the top of the board with a pretty darn good lap, and now you're junk.
And you know, I'm not so sure that he maybe didn't do the same thing that Montoya did. He didn't even make a complete lap. He just went out, went down the back straightaway, came right back on the pit road. So he may have rolled his set of qualifiers in as well. Joey Logano has joined the top 5 in that 20 car. Joey's 5th quickest.
And so is Mark Martin. You know, we were wondering where Mark was. He's sitting up there 5th or 3rd now.
Well, Junior's comments are interesting because to the stopwatch, the difference between his fastest lap and the junk lap was not even 0.2 of a second.
Yeah. I think it maybe in his mind, it's junk when I try to go fast. This is fast I can go. When I try to go faster, don't like it.
Yeah, if I try to run a 29 flat like Montoya,
yeah,
it's not going to make it.
Yeah, that's what I think it might be.
Jamie McMurray right now 21st quickest in this one car, the winner from the Daytona 500. He's run a total of 25 laps.
And I think that was a qualifying run too, Larry. I saw him tear out of the pits down there just a second ago. So I think that was his qualifying effort, McMurray.
So do we now have to stop calling Newman the Rocket and we have to call him the Tornado?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Money talks.
Yes, it does.
6th fastest for Newman. He is indeed a tornado, 29.12.
Now Jimmy Johnson in the 48 just finished another practice qualifying run. It was his fastest lap of this session, but still about a 0.5 slower than Montoya, a 29.05 for Johnson.
Look at those first 5 up there. Actually, several of the guys, a 0.06, a 0.19, a 0.58, a 0.89, and a 10. That's all over each other.
It's going to be very, very tight. I'd say, you know, you talked about only 0.2, Mike. That could be the difference between qualifying 5th or 25th possibly.
I've got to wonder.
That feels pretty decent. We'll shut off right there, save him for qualifying.
You know, Kevin Harvick ran a lap and a half, pasted the wall in turn 2. They fixed this car, felt that everything was fine, but does the stopwatch agree?
Well, let me just tell you what he did right there. But no, I don't think he's going to be up there at the top when we go to qualify. But let's take a look at this. This was just the first time out when the track opened for practice. You can see him up in that high groove there above the 48
Bam.
car. And the car just would not turn. But what Kevin just did with his set of tires right there, sounds like to me it was a set of sticker, brand new tires. He ran them until they felt like they stuck, and then he shut it down. It didn't matter if it was a 1/2 lap, a 3/4 lap, or what.
So never mind the stopwatch. Now we're going to get ready to qualify.
They still got work to do.
Montoya and Hornish are faster than the track record. Wonder what we'll see this afternoon in pole qualifying for the Shelby American that you'll see Sunday on Fox. 2 drivers go home out of knockout qualifying. And based on the practice chart, they're somewhat likely to be Terry Cook and Casey Mears. Across the break, John Roberts. See you later.